right, guys, we are here with another interview on the Run In podcast. We've got, I'd say he's like an Instagram hero of mine. Just looking at his collection, man, it's unreal.
Exactly.
We got the FigHeel at FigHeel on Instagram. That's your Twitter as well, right?
Yep, Twitter and YouTube, Facebook, same thing. But I mostly use the YouTube and Instagram the most.
Awesome.
Well, not a good tweeter.
Yeah, dude, keeping up with Twitter sometimes is exhausting.
That's a job. That's like having another job.
Sometimes keeping up with all of it is just it's just exhausting. But
it is, because each platform requires different type of content. You know, it's just like it's a lot to keep up with.
It is. But thanks for joining us here today, man. We're gonna do pick your brain a little bit about your amazing collection, and I actually want to talk to you a little bit about your other account too, the unreleased wrestling figures account as well. That's piqued my interest quite a bit. But yeah, let's just get it right into it, man. What was your gateway figure? Like, what got you into, I mean, from what we see on Instagram and stuff like in YouTube, most of your collection is wrestling. So what got you, first of all, like what made you become a fan? And then what was like the first figure that you had where you were like, oh my God, I need to collect these?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much, my collection pretty much is all wrestling with the exception of a few things. Just because I do like more things, I just try to limit myself because I know how much money and time I put into this, that like, I just kind of want to keep it all centralized on one thing. But, I mean, like I've been a fan of wrestling my entire life. My dad's been a lifelong fan, so I was just brought up on wrestling. And, some of my first, toys as a kid were, Hasbro's and hand-me-down LJNs from my older brothers. So, I mean, like, it's just as far back as I can remember, wrestling figures have just been a part of my life. And like, it's hard for me to, some people pinpoint like a specific match or like, you know, they're flipping through the channels. But for me, it's like as far back as I can remember, wrestling has been a part of my life. Like I have early memories of like my dad coming home from work and having a Roddy Piper Hasbro that he picked up at Toys R Us on the way home. Like, and I was little, you know, like, but it's just as far back as I can remember, it's wrestling.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you mentioned that you have a couple of other things that you collect besides wrestling. What else do you collect?
Well, I've been collecting the NECA horror figures, the Ultimates. So I'm trying to get at least one of each like iconic horror character.
Right.
I also collect all of the South Park Funko Pops. So South Park, they have these figures by Mezco. They're not produced anymore, but it's a really cool line, and the value of them has just shot up. And so my compromise of staying away from the Mezco, whereas I'm gonna buy the Funko Pops as they come out because I could save a little bit of money.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Like I mean, I have a couple other random pops, but nothing that like I religiously collect like those two things. But this is my forte.
It's funny that you said that, you focus just on wrestling. I'm catching myself now. Like I collect wrestling, Ninja Turtles, Marvel, Star Wars. I have a handful of pops, Transformers. And I'm like, now, like I'm kind of I'm starting to kind of be like, what do I need to focus on just like maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 things. And there's just so much nowadays. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Like, and for some reason, I mean, I guess it's a lot of stuff that I have, but people see my account and they're like, this dude's, he's loaded. But it's like, it's not the case. I'm a very regular guy. It's just, I'm very, I do put myself on a budget. Like I don't go spending like massive amounts of money. I'm very patient for things. Mm-hmm. And I live within my means. And this is over a long period of time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm with you. I'm with you. That's the way I have to do it. Yep.
Yeah. Like people don't understand. They see that you have a big collection. They're like, oh, he must've just dropped like thousands at once. It's like, no, man, this is like years and years and years. Like the older stuff that I have, I got it when it came out. Like, right. And over the years, I've accumulated, and that's what happens.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing when people come into my room and they see my collection and stuff, and obviously I have nowhere near what you have, but they're just like, man, how much money did you spend on this? And it's like, it's really, if you break it down, it's not that much. Like, if you get stuff when it comes out, if you wait, if you sleep on something, then maybe you're spending a little bit more, but
Exactly.
Like with the WWE elites, the Mattels, it's like it's $20. You know,
It's
it's
$20.
not,
Yep.
I'm sure, like, and then like I'll try to like relate it to like other people. Like I have a few friends who like they freaking love gambling, and I'm just like, dude, how much how much have you spent on NFL games each week and stuff like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, dude, listen, I don't drink. I'm not an alcohol guy, so I don't go out to the bar and spend, $150 a night every Friday on
That's a good
alcohol.
point. Yeah.
Yep.
That's
You
a
know
good
what I
point.
mean? Like I don't smoke weed like a lot of people spend a lot of. These are all vices. This is my vice.
Absolutely.
I have a friend that collects cars and had the nerve to come over to my place and say, "How much did you spend?" I said, "Dude, you got 8 cars. Like, what are we talking about here?"
Yeah. And when you have a car, like they like to fix them up, and you're talking about each project, you're looking at like 5 to 10 grand just because you want to soup it up a little bit. Like we all have different vices. This is ours, I guess.
Absolutely. I'll let DJ ask you a question before I get into my my next one. DJ, what do you got for FigHeel?
Is there what's your favorite wrestler to collect?
Oh man, that's
if there is one.
well. See, like my favorite wrestler of all time is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay.
But are Stone Cold figures really that fun to collect? I mean, like he wore black trunks. You know what I mean? Like
with a black vest, and there you go.
The biggest variation is like these new Royal Rumbles. Like he's got a different color knee brace, or like you know what I mean? Like so like he's my favorite of all time, but I can't say he's necessarily fun to collect. Right now, I am a huge Bray Wyatt guy. My recent post, like I've always been big on the Wyatt family, and I've made sure to get every single like Wyatt family, like Luke Harper, I have every single figure, rest in peace, Eric Rowan, and every Bray Wyatt figure. I'm just a big fan of them, and I just think that the whole Bray's very toyetic. I don't think he gets enough credit for how toyetic he is. I'm not talking the Fiend. I'm talking Bray Wyatt. I just think all the tattoos and like the expressions on his face. Yeah, I love Bray Wyatt stuff.
Nice. I'm with you with the Stone Cold. Like Ric Flair is my favorite of all time, and he's the same way. It's like he's just got different colored tights, maybe a different robe here and there. Yeah. But it's like I was shocked that they're doing an ultimate of him because I'm like he's not really like. It's cool that they're doing the 4 Horsemen band and the different face, but I'm like you're not really getting much else. But
exactly. But like see like that that is also to me like a testament of their talent and their impact on the wrestling world. It's like their attire and look is so minimal, but their the impression they've left is so huge. Same thing with The Rock, like not necessarily the most toyetic guy. Like when you think about a lot of his figures, again, just regular trunks. Maybe it's got a different bowl in a different place, but he's one of the goats, like
or the Just Bring It hand and
like they don't necessarily always make the best figures. Probably the most toyetic, like I would say, arguably like a Rushmore guy would be Macho Man, right? Like he's got some. Yeah.
You can go on forever. Like all the outfits he had and everything, you can go like he can have about 30 figures and it'll be something different every time.
Yeah.
I've said it on our show before. Every time they put out a new Macho Man or Ultimate Warrior for that matter, I'm like, I don't need any more Macho Mans or Ultimate Warriors. And then they come out with something and I'm like, shit, I do need that.
Yeah, then it's over with.
Yeah. Like Ringside just showed that exclusive from WrestleMania that they're putting out. And when they first showed it, I was like, exact same thing. I was like, I don't need another Macho Man. Like, I don't need it. And then they just put up a pre-order. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get it.
All right. Yeah, you got me.
I've done that. I'm doing that with the Ultimate Warrior Royal Rumble. Mostly because it comes with the yellow belt and the 2 heads. Like, I like that, the paint's worn off on one of them. And then, Macho, the same thing with the Ultimate Edition. I'm like, I don't need any more Macho Man. Oh shit, yes I do.
Yeah, they do. They know how to reel us in, man. Like
for sure. Even the Ultimate Warrior ringside, it's like I'm like, man, that was like not necessarily like past my time, my watching time, but I'm just like, I don't really want to remember that Warrior era. But then I see it, and I'm just like, yeah, I need that. Even though the hair's wrong, but I need.
Yeah. You're like, oh, he's got a tattoo. It's different. He's got a tattoo.
I'm a Sting guy, so it's like, he's toyetic to start off with. Yeah. And then, but every time you think you have all the black and whites that you need, and then all of a sudden they do something else. Like I'm still mad about that. The coming out of the ceiling Sting that they didn't put
Oh
out for
man.
Target. I'm still mad about that one.
You know what, man? So many people were like saying like, "Oh, I don't really care. It wasn't that important." I'm like, it was. Like that was the transition to
Correct.
Right.
like I needed that short hair stinger. Like I'm bummed about that too, man.
Right, because if you have the one where he's with Lex Luger and Macho Man,
Yeah.
right? So that was where he had already started his dark hair.
Yeah.
That was the next step. It's like, okay, you could have had the whole progression.
Yep.
And then
You
they
literally
ruined it.
you could literally have the entire evolution of Sting with that one
Right.
figure, and you wouldn't need another one. That
Yeah.
would have been perfect. But yeah, it's a bummer.
Do you have a favorite line of wrestling figures?
Yeah, it's actually the Bone Crunchers.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love Hasbro's. I love collecting like the mint on card Hasbro's, and I have like the loose ones, but like Bone Crunchers, like that was just like my prime age, I think, for like collecting and playing with wrestling figures, because I was probably about 8 to 10 is when that they were like really big part of my life, and they're not the best. I know that but at the time, I think that they were the most playable that we've had at that point. Like, like LJN's, Galoob's, no articulation.
Right.
Hasbro's, they had an action, but can we call that articulation necessarily? Like, there's a fine line there. These, at least, like, I could do whatever I wanted with their arms.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them were better than others. Like, I always thought, like, the Billy Gunn was really cool because I could do a Famouser, like, almost perfectly with the way his legs were. Austin in a T-shirt, you could do a cool stunner. I think the reason that I'm partial to them is that my imagination was able to really, really run wild with the Bone Crunchers.
That makes a lot of sense. Like the Hasbro's.
Yeah, right.
I grew up with Hasbro's.
Yeah.
The Hasbro's were amazing, but like there's certain ones that you just can't play with. Like they suck to play with.
Yeah.
The last Macho Man where he's got the coat on and the fingers.
Oh yeah.
That's impossible as an 8 or 9-year-old kid to play with because you're gonna break the fingers and the tassels on the coat and everything. Bone Crunchers were like a little bit past like my playing with toys era. Yeah. But I do have a couple now in my collection just as like I have Owen Hart just because like that's like the last Owen Hart figure you can get. And every once in a while I'll walk by some at like a toy store and I'm just like, oh man, that one actually does look good. Or it would be cool to have like Stone Cold's obviously so iconic from that era to grab that, or the Warrior or something like that. So
yeah, that Warrior and that Shawn were my favorite out of that line.
The first like blue Shawn, that one.
Yes, and then the Warrior like actually had like tassels that were yarn, so it's just like, okay, I can run with this. Yeah, I remember the Bone Crunchers.
They had some cool. I mean, like, listen, they're not the best. Like, the ring was way too big. There was a lot of flaws, but there's like, I think there's just that childhood attachment to them. That's like, I can't front. That's my number one.
I get it, man. I totally get it. Now you collect more than just figures as well, right? I was looking through I was watching a couple of your YouTube videos. You're not just figures. You've got buddies. You've got it. It looked like you have everything.
Yeah. So my thing is I used to collect t-shirts, wrestling t-shirts. Once I got to like middle school until like graduating college, I kind of laid off figures more and started focusing on t-shirts because I was like, this is the more adult collecting. Right. Like, it's some t-shirts like that. And I had hundreds and hundreds of t-shirts. I ended up unloading them and it actually helped me buy the house. But my rule now is anything wrestling toy. So the Buddies considered a toy. I have like the old Remco hockey game with the box. Like anything that's a toy, like that's my thing. Like, and I love real obscure stuff. Like there's like the tug of war game from like 96, 97. The Hasbro trace plates, I have them mint in box. Like anything that's like obscure and it's a toy, I almost like, I'm like, I have to have that. Whereas a figure, I could be like, oh, I'll wait for a better price.
Sure.
But yeah, it's anything wrestling toy.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I limit it to like, I have one buddy. I have one like Hogan buddy.
The Hogan back there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And then like every once in a while I'll see something, I'm like, I'm gonna grab that, but I have nowhere to put it. So there's a lot of stuff out there that intrigues me. I saw on your YouTube you have the Jake the Snake, like snake in the bag, from like the 90s. I had that as a kid, and that just like I saw the box and I was like, holy smokes! Like it brought me right on back. That was like a huge part of my childhood. That thing is awesome.
I actually didn't have that as a kid. I didn't even know that existed until I was an adult, because I never saw that in stores. Didn't have it as a kid. I have the box with it, but it's been opened, and my goal is to eventually upgrade to like a sealed mint and box one, but they're so hard to come by.
Yeah, because I only saw them I saw it at a house show once.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only time I've ever seen it.
Yeah. It's a cool item.
Yeah. Are you a completist? Is there anything that's off limits? Is there, a certain wrestler that you don't collect? Is there certain things that you're just like, no, I'm good? I know you said you're all mostly wrestling toys, or all wrestling toys, but is there anything that is kind of like, no, I'm all set with that?
Like well, first of all, if you were asking about like a specific wrestler I don't collect, I feel like the most common question I get is, do you have any Chris Benoit figures? And it's like, so I do, but they were well before the whole scenario.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
Right now, one of the collections I'm trying to work on is I want to get one of each at the time modern character from the Ruthless Aggression era.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how I feel about getting a Chris Benoit figure from that era when all that happened. Like, once I get to the end and I have everybody but him, I'm gonna figure out if I want to add that to the collection. But is there anything off limits? Not really, man. Like there's some, I know there's fans who like, they just can't stand a certain wrestler but like I really do respect what they do so much that like, I can't really say there's anybody I necessarily hate, that if a new figure came out that I would say no. I'm not a completist. I do want to complete my mint on card Hasbro's. I'm not one of those guys who buys every single elite that comes out. I don't understand the purpose behind that, because they're not all winners.
Right.
No. I do have all but one Bone Cruncher, but I don't know if I'm necessarily considered a completist. But if I keep going down the road I'm probably eventually going to be a completist in quite a few things, because at some point, like, you run out of stuff to buy.
For sure. I'm a strictly flashbacks for the elites. I'm strictly flashbacks, and then like some other like I have a miscellaneous shelf with just random stuff on it. But yeah, it's. I thought you were a completist for some reason. I don't know if I was going through like one of your videos or something and like saw all your stuff in your mint on card collection. So.
It comes off that way. It looks that way. Like I have all the retros, every single retro mitten box, but like, that's different to me because like I was collecting when they were coming out.
Yep.
Like the Toy Biz WCW, I don't have all of them. I have a lot of them, but I don't know if I really care enough to get these random like Hogan on the motorcycle or, I don't know if I really need them so much. But my rule right now for like Mattel's is flashbacks and first time in the line figures. I think that's cool when somebody gets their first figure.
Yep.
Because I'm the same thing. I've been laying off of like modern guys, but then like I start getting in my head and I'm like, well, at some point they're not going to be a modern guy. Like they're going to be like, eventually they could be a flashback like this figure or a legend. Like
that's a good point.
It's it's like a weird concept to think of, but I'm trying to limit myself lately because I'm running out of room on this elite wall.
Right.
DJ, got anything?
Who's your oldest figure? Who's the old guy?
Like the actual person or
yeah.
Okay. Man, that's tough. I don't know. I have like I have like a lot of pretty much I would say 80% of the LJN collection. That was the first ever figures.
Right.
Actually, one of my grails that I won, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but like Gorgeous George, there was an early doll that came out in, I believe, like the 30s or the 40s. I can't remember exactly, but it was like a really old, raggedy looking doll. And
I did not know that. Yeah.
only seen like one or two in my entire life, and that's like a Grail thing that like I just think that would be so cool to own, like pretty much the first ever wrestling toy.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
I had no idea that existed. That's cool.
Me either. Yeah.
It's not a pretty sight,
Yeah.
and like it's one of those things where if somebody didn't tell you that it's Gorgeous George, you'd probably be like,
right.
What is that?
Yeah.
What about luchadors?
I have like the CMLL ones from like the 90s.
Okay.
I want to get all the Kellyans, the AAA Kellyans. I don't follow like the like Mexican wrestling scene as like you know, intently, but like I would really like to get like the Psychosis and obviously the Ray, but like I feel like everybody who collects, like they want those too, you know?
You're right.
I got itchy for those a while back with listening to the Major Brothers, and I never pulled the trigger, but those are two, probably those two as well are like two that I would love to add to my collection.
Yeah,
miscellaneous shelf.
I have one. I have La Parka. It's a cool figure.
Nice, yeah.
But they don't hold up very well. Like it's hard to find one that's not beat to hell without getting a mint on card when it open, which is like an artifact like that. It's hard for me to open. Like I don't know how guys open like Hasbro's and stuff like that. Like I try to look for mint loose ones if I'm gonna collect loose.
Right.
But yeah, the Kellyans are tough to come by in good condition, man. Like I've been struggling. I still steady look at them, but there's always something wrong or fingers missing. So,
I got one last question for you about
what's up?
FigHeel, and then we'll jump over to unreleased figures. What does your family think? Like, are you married, girlfriend?
I'm not married right now. No, I did have a girlfriend, but that didn't work out. Not because of all this.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Believe it or not, she actually worked for Hasbro, and I used to always bust her chops, like, you can't just work for Mattel, like.
Can't you transfer?
Yeah, but it was cool. I actually forgot about this, so you asked this question, but yeah, it was cool. Like she would go to like toy fairs and stuff like that, and she would always pick up like a bunch of Mattel figures for me, and like she'd come back with like a goodie bag of like Mattels for me. It was always like basics and stuff like that, but I'll take I'll take whatever.
Right.
But no, right now, no girlfriend or wife, but I mean, my family, my friends are all really supportive of it. I've never been one of those people where it's like I keep it a secret or anything. Like this is just part of me. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't necessarily define me, but it's a big part of my life. It's something I enjoy. My dad appreciates toys. Like that's kind of where my appreciation for toys came from. Like he used to collect not wrestling, but like everything, and he has like a whole basement full of stuff. And my family's really cool about it. My dad actually every year for Christmas he always tries to buy me something cool that like I don't have, and he's actually really good at it. He's really good at making me interested in things and start spending more money. So like a couple years ago he bought me like a mint on card 1-2-3 Kid Hasbro before they skyrocketed. He actually, I think it was last year, he got me that Jake the Snake snake.
Nice.
He's real supportive and is always looking for stuff. Actually, right before we came on here, he was a couple states away and he found a case of AEW figures and he was like, which one's like the good one to get? But no chase in it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's what I hope to be like I have a 10-year-old. And I hope to be like that with Heat. Like he's not really into the wrestling figures, but he collects pops, Legos, some other random stuff. But like I hope he keeps it going so that I can be like that, to be honest with you. Like be on the lookout for him when he's older and stuff like that. I'm on the lookout for him now when I'm, come home with a Lego set that I know he's been looking for or a pop I know he's been looking for. So that's cool, man. That's very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, that's something that like I look forward to is when I have like a kid and stuff, like and being able to enjoy that with them. Because I have a couple friends who have kids that collect, and it's cool. They're always on the hunt to like, and it becomes almost like extrinsic. Like it's not for them anymore. It's like they want to find this for their kid, and I don't know. I look forward to feeling that. It's pretty cool.
It's awesome. I lied. I had one more question about the FigHeel side. How many figures do you think you have? Not toys, but figures. Do you have
Figures?
a number? Do you keep track? Do you?
I had a number a few years ago, and it was it was in the mid thousands, and all of
And
the
that was a few
figures.
years ago, so
Yeah, man. Like, and not to mention, like, a lot of it, like, this isn't everything behind me. Like, this is just the stuff that I want to display. Like, a lot of things I'm like, I don't need to display this. This is silly. Like, so I have a bunch of totes just filled with bagged loose figures. I have a bunch in storage, and I have a bunch at my parents' house. Like, I always tell my buddy, he's on Instagram, FigVault. He's got a good collection too.
Yeah.
I told him, like, I'm a toy hoarder. Like, I can't let it go because even a double, I'm like, what if I find out down the road that there's like some minor variation to this figure, and then I'm gonna want it? Like, I have to just hold on to it. Like, even when I upgrade figures, if it's like a little beat up, I'll buy like a new one. Like, I can't sell things. Like, it's my thing.
oh wow,
Because I'm afraid to miss out on having like a variant that maybe I missed something. Like
the ghost signature underneath the chin, and
yeah, it's bad, but maybe one day I'll get a little bit better at it.
TJ, you got anything else before we start talking about the unreleased side?
I'm ready for the unreleased.
All right. Yeah, this page intrigues me. So I actually found this page before I found your FigHeel page. It's unreleased wrestling figs.
Yep.
So I'm just curious, man. Like, how did this get started? How did you go hunting on this on your own? Did somebody send you this and you were like, you know what, I'm going to start a page? Like, how did it start?
It's actually a really funny story. So this page was started for me solely, like nobody else. Like, I was like very big into figures, obviously, and like I like the unreleased, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start an archive. I don't feel like starting a website or anything. I'm just going to start an archive so that if I can rely back to it, and like, you know, if I want to look for something. So I started unreleased wrestling figs as just for me, not to get followers. And I added, like, was uploading pictures just so I could like scroll through them on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then Matt Cardona actually started following it. I was like, oh shit. Like, well, so this thing, it's gonna blow up. And like within no time, it had like a couple thousand like followers, and it just became like a community thing. But it really did only start as something just for me to like keep a log on, like, so I could keep track of like all the unreleased figures that I found. Because at the time when I made it, I had a huge file on my computer with just unreleased wrestling figure prototypes and pictures and stuff like that I'd collected over the years that people had sent me. And my computer was dying. And I was like, I need to upload these because I don't want to lose them, because some of them you just can't find anywhere. They're things that I've had for years that were personally sent to me, some of them. Mm-hmm. Some of them you can find by Googling, but a lot of them, a lot of time and tracking down went into finding just the pictures, you know? Yep. So I was like, I got to upload these to somewhere where it's going to be there forever. And then it just caught on.
Do you have any of these? Have you been able to like snag any of these prototypes or anything?
I have a few, but like, because I run that page, if I bought every single prototype that was like thrown at me on there, dude, I would be deep in the hole. Because just because I run it, you wouldn't believe how many things get like thrown my way. Like, hey, do you want this? And it's like, well, I mean, like, it's a loaded question. Yeah, I want it, but what do you want for it?
Right.
So I stick to things that like are cool to me. Like, I have a resin prototype bone crunching action rock figure. It's the first ever rock figure made, and it's in an alternate pose. And I was like, I really wanted that because it's something that was on the back of the carding, but it's not how the figure was produced. And so I got that. I have a couple Build and Brawl Jax figures because I thought they were cool, like the small scale style.
Yep.
I have like a Cody Rhodes test shot figure that never came out. But I really try to limit it, because my worry is it's hard to tell what's actually worth a lot to people.
Right.
And there's such a small market for prototypes and unreleased things that it's really hard to gauge what they're worth and what you should pay for them. So it's not like regular figures. It's very, very scary. Like, unless it's like a Hasbro and LJN, anything else, it's kind of like, well, you could really end up overpaying and just losing out because it's a hard
Kind of
market.
like, yeah, it's kind of like buying independent art, because
Yeah, man. Like,
they literally charge you what you think you feel you want for the
yes.
how emotional are you about this art piece, and then that's how the price goes up.
Yeah, and like you can't figure out what it's worth because there's very few of them, so it's very, very difficult. I actually recently helped Matt get a LJN Macho Man.
I saw that.
Yeah. So that was I that was offered to me, but I just was like, I can't pull the trigger on this. I can't spend this right now with like Christmas and everything. But he was actually really cool about it, and he was like, just because you helped me out, I'm gonna send you this unreleased Hulk Hogan LJN head. So I got that coming on the way.
Nice.
Yeah, that he hooked me up with. So I mean, that was cool of him because he really didn't have to do anything. Like, I was just like, if somebody's gonna buy it, I'd rather it be him just because he had the counterpart to go with it.
Right.
That was my thought process behind it, is that like, if these things are gonna exist, I would rather them all be together if I'm not going to buy them selfishly, because at least I know where they are.
Right. It's a cool page, man. I love looking at that. I love when new stuff gets posted on there.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's awesome.
It's funny because like, it's not all like, unreleased is very, I guess it could be deceptive because people are like, they think it's all things that they've never seen before, but sometimes figures come out and it's in a different deco or there's something missing from it. And I like to include that in there. I think that's a big part of seeing what was advertised and what we actually got. And it's a cool dynamic to it. Like, there's some things where there's molds that have never been produced, but there's things where it might just be a different deco on the side of their trunks or something like that. Like, there's all different stuff on there. And I think it deserves more followers than it actually has, because I think it's a really cool page it's grown into.
Yeah, it's awesome. If I could pick one thing on there that I would want to see made, it would be the gobbledygooker.
Really?
Yeah, I need that gobbledygooker, man.
I'll tell you what, like, I don't understand why it didn't come out, because when you look at that prototype, there is so much tooling that went into producing that.
Right.
It's a great figure. It really is. There's so much work they put into that. It's like, why did you do that to do a one-off piece? I don't understand it. I'm hoping that they will. Every time that because Bill and Steve follow the page now, so every time that I've posted it in the past like couple years, Bill will comment or something, and like, I'm always like, come on, man, just make it. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, even if like they made some suspect characters before, like the shark. Like, was there really that big of a market for the shark? And you can't make the gobbledygooker that everybody kind of wants. Like, it's just a crazy figure. But if I could pick one, I really would want the Rhythm and Blues Greg Valentine. I just am not willing to pay the prices that I've been offered for it.
That would be. I kind of was hoping when they did announce the Elite for the Legends series that we'd get. I know there was a variant or a chase. I was hoping that it would be a Rhythm and Blues hammer for the chase for the Elites, but
me too, dude. Me too. But I mean, I have high hopes that Mattel's going to bring back the retros. I think they will. Maybe not as soon as we'd like, but I do think they're going to bring them back. They've done a great job of reviving lines that were popular with collectors that have died, entrance greats, defining moments, network spotlight. I mean, if you look Legends, like, there's so many things that when they ended Legends, people were pissed. Same thing with defining moments. Give them a couple years. I do think they'll be back, and I'm hopeful that they still have Greg, and I would really love for them to do a Rhythm and Blues Greg retro. I think that would be, aside from like the Diesel that they put out, I think that would be like the most wanted and best-selling figure that collectors would be after, just because of what it represented 30 years ago.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm with you 100%. DJ, got anything else, man? Anything about the unreleased page or anything?
Unreleased, because we talked about the unreleased the unreleased figure that I am still mad about. Is there a figure that you're just like that other than Valentine? Is there like another figure that you're just really hunting? Unreleased.
I'm so ADD when it comes to hunting. Like I'll be looking for something and then I'll stop and I'll move all over the place. I mean, there's really nothing unreleased that I'm like I need to have, other than there is. I've posted them a couple times. The original Jack's Buddies that came out, not the ones that are bone crunching, but initially before they came out, they were just going to be plush. And at one toy fair, they showed headbanger prototypes of Buddies, and they're just so cool. They come with the skirts and like the makeup, and it's just such a cool looking buddy. And if I could ever find those prototypes, that's probably something that I would be willing to really double down on.
Nice.
And really dig deep into the pockets for, because I mean, I'm from New Jersey. I'm a Jersey guy. That's where they're from. I mean, as a kid, I ran into like Mosh and Thrasher at Toys R Us and KB all the time, multiple times, because they were literally from a town away. And anytime they were back home, like I know Thrasher was big into video games, so he was always at the video games section. And Mosh, like he would always just be walking around places in the mall and stuff. So I always had like an attachment to them because I was like, oh, they're from where I'm from, you know, like. But yeah, I would absolutely love to have those headbanger buddies. So if anybody has ever seen them outside of that toy fair, or you know where they're located, please let me know.
That's why I asked. I was hoping you were going to do that. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah, man.
And the toy bangers, like the headbangers, are toyetic. Like they are like low key, very.
I don't know why we don't have elites.
I was just gonna say I would love to have elites of them.
Because if you remember,
I'd do it.
A couple years ago, they came back on SmackDown for like 3 or 4 matches, just as like, you know, not because they had a contract, just like because they're on good terms with WWE, and they did a couple matches. And I think they were in like a tag team tournament too a couple years ago. And I was like, oh, we're definitely getting those elites. We're definitely getting them. And never came. Yeah. I don't know what Bill's deal is with like Attitude Era figures. Like, come on, man. Like there's more than Rock and Austin.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's focused on NXT. That's
At least we got a couple of Chinas out of it.
Dude, it's not even like a joke anymore. Like he really is. Like he refused. It's what he likes is what he's going to make. Like,
Yep. All right. So before we wrap up here, every interview we've done on here, I try to ask one non-wrestling, non-figure question. We have a sponsor called Pod Decks. They have a deck of cards that you use to like strike up conversation. I pulled a card from our Would You Rather deck. So this is basically just, would you rather A or B? So for you, would you rather take cold showers for the rest of your life or never get more than 4 hours of sleep a night again?
Cold showers for the rest of my life.
You didn't even have to think about that.
No,
that was like,
I need that sleep. And I had bad sleep last night. I was like, oh man, I hope I don't suck on this interview. Like, hey, I need my sleep, man. I need my 8 hours every single day. Like, I will take that cold shower like a man if I have to.
I'll take the 4 hours myself.
Really?
I said, man, I have the kid. I just, there's some nights where I get only the 4 hours.
You've been training for that then. All right. Yeah, I gotcha.
How about you, DJ? What would you pick?
Yeah, I think so. I think anybody that's pretty much had kids, like you can do the 4 hour, like
function,
like 4 hours, like that's, or if you're you're a gamer like me who will try to finish a game in a night. So no, I'll do like in cold shower. Like no, I don't like cold things in the morning. I don't like cold coffee. I don't like cold showers. So
I'm with you, man. It's a tough one to pick from, but I gotta go with the shower. I'm gonna take it. I'll take one for the whole team, guys.
All right, man. Thank you so much for jumping on here. If you want to plug your social media, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, on Instagram, it's at FigHeel and at Unreleased Wrestling Figs. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/FigHeel. We got I got a Pro Wrestling Tee store. That's just search FigHeel on there. I got the unreleased wrestling figure coloring books that are on Amazon. They're Amazon exclusives. We're up to volume 4 now. Volume 5 is being worked on now. So what that is basically, it's a coloring book, but it's really it's really just like an informative book, each one. So like what it is it'll have like a coloring page of the unreleased figure, but the page after it is actually the information on it, why it was canceled, why it didn't come out, this, that, and the other, why it was different from if it was a version of it was released. And people really liked them. I wasn't sure when I did the first volume, but people really ended up liking the series. So something I'm really proud of, because I always wanted to publish a book of some sort, and I was like, let's try it this way, and it worked out. So, but yeah, pretty much FigHeel on every social media platform. Unreleased Wrestling Figs. Definitely give me a follow. Check them out. I think you won't be disappointed, especially on Unreleased Wrestling Figs. It's a really fun page to be a part of.
Not at all.
Yeah,
and even if you don't like the figures, like read the comments. Some of the things people say, they just roast these figures. It's like one of the best parts about the page.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on here with us, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'm definitely going to check out those coloring books, man.
Thanks.
Yeah.